Hey everyone, it's Ashley and I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be teaching you how you can take infusible ink to make these adorable, sweet little baby onesies, and it really just changes how they look. It gives you such a nice way to customize them. So if you want to try this out yourself, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future content. And make sure to give me a thumbs up. Let me know you enjoy this. Let's talk about what supplies you'll need for this project. I'm going to be using the Cricut Joy for this tutorial, but you can also use the Cricut Explorer 2 or the Maker. I'm going to use the Cricut easypress 2. This is in the 6x7 inch model. I'm using this one particularly because I'm going to be working with small bodysuits, and you don't want a huge machine if you're working with a small item. You'll also want the easypress mat just to give you the best result, a pair of scissors, and a weeding tool so that you can remove the extra pieces of infusible ink. You'll want a ruler just so you can size your project, a piece of cardstock. This is going to be a protective layer so that the ink doesn't transfer to the back of the bodysuit. And then you'll want a roll of infusible ink. This comes with 2 transfer sheets. This is a Natalie Malan. I just love this kind of like watercolor impression. So we're going to work with this and we'll get started with this project. So the first thing is to make sure you have your bodysuit unpacked, and we'll start measuring it. Since we're working with such a small item, it's very important to measure. Whenever you're working with infusible ink or any decals, you want to keep in mind that the body is 3D, and because of that, the design is best if it's centered towards the top and towards the middle. If you go too far out to the sides, it will get lost when the person moves. So this is a great way to make sure that you get the best look overall on it. So let's take a measurement for this one. This one is going to be, it's about 7.5 inches total across. So we want to make sure we leave a little gap on the sides. So I would say probably about 4 inches is best for baby bodysuits until you start hitting the year mark and up for the baby bodysuits. The smaller ones, 0 to 3 months, all the way up to 9 months, 12 months, you'll probably be better off with 4 inches or maybe even a little bit less. So we'll go with 4 inches. That direction, and it looks like you could go up to, I would say 3.5, 4 inches as well to get the best result on that. So keep that in mind when you're sizing your decal. Our next step is we are going to cut out our decal. So let me move this aside, and we have our Cricut machine. We're going to make sure we have the correct blade in here. We're going to be using the standard blade that comes with the machine. We'll move our easypress out of the way. Take your standard grip mat that comes with the Joy, and you're going to load in your transfer sheet. There are 2 different transfer sheets that come in this. There's a purple and a pretty light green. They also come with butcher paper, which is you'll use for your project. So for this one, we want to make sure that we size this one down to what we need. So we're going to cut the excess off of this. This is also where I would take, if you don't have a brayer tool is a little tool that you can use to roll. If you don't have one, this would be a great time to take something like your cardstock sheet and to use that to press down your other sheet. We're trying to avoid adding any extra oils from your hands or anything that could interfere with the infusible ink working its best. So I'm just going to press that down, make sure that's firmly attached to the sheet behind it. Let's open up our machine, and we're going to load this into the machine. Make sure that you've set your project to infusible ink transfer sheet. You'll want to make sure that your mirroring is on. Mirroring reverses the design so that when it cuts out, it will be flipped. So when you put it onto your shirt, it'll be the right side up. So once the mirror is on, you have it set to infusible ink transfer sheet, you have the correct blade in, go ahead and click go. The design is cut, so we'll just unload it. We click the unload button, and now it's ready to be removed from the machine. We'll close up the machine and move it out of the way. To remove your sheet from the mat, you're going to flip this over and hold it down, rolling the mat away. Then you can flip this over. If you have any extra left, you can hold this and just cut away the rest and save it for another project. This is where we're going to use our scissors and our weeding tool. So the big thing with this is we're trying to remove the excess from this design. So there are pieces in here that do not belong in the design. So what we'll do is we'll start at the corner. And there's a carrier sheet. This plastic sticky sheet is what holds the decal in place while you're applying it. We are going to use our weeding tool to kind of hold down the sections that are cut so that it removes cleanly. Something to keep in mind when you're working with infusible ink is that it is a thicker material, and because of it, it has almost a paper-like texture. So it will take a little bit more finesse to work with. But it's okay that if you're working with a section and it becomes overwhelming, you can take it and cut away the section that you've already removed, set this aside, and now you can keep working without having to hold a big chunk of materials at the same time. So what I like to do is take away the biggest pieces and then work on the smallest sections after. So I'm just going to go in, I'm going to hold the design down with my tool, and I'm going to remove from the outside. Because it has a paper-like texture, you will have spots like this that pop up where it has held a little bit. So what I recommend is taking your little weeding tool and just sliding it underneath. And what it does is, it's because it's stuck a little too hard to the carrier tape underneath. So it looks difficult to remove, but really you just slide your tool underneath and it'll pop off cleanly once you go in there with your tool. So this is kind of a troubleshooting method. If you're having any issues with the infusible ink, just remember that, you know, you'll need to slide your tool underneath it to get it out cleanly. And the results on these are so beautiful that it's totally worth a little bit of extra effort and time with the design. So when you're done weeding it, it'll look like a white design on the top, and on the bottom you'll see hints of the color. It's not super vibrant until you apply heat to it. So let's go ahead and start the process for applying this to the bodysuit. The first step is to go to the Cricut heat guide. I'll leave a link to that in the description box for you. It will tell you the temperature, the time, all of the settings that you need to apply this correctly. So I'm going to bring up the Cricut heat guide and let's take a look at what it recommends. We're on Cricut's website right now looking through the heat guide, and this is a handy tool that you can use to make sure that your process comes out perfectly. So the first thing that we're going to do is just scroll through the different options here. We're using the Cricut easypress 2, so I'm selecting that one. I'm going to select my heat transfer material, so I'm using the infusible ink transfer sheet. I'm going to select the base material, which is the baby bodysuit, and select apply. This gives us all the directions that we need to be successful. So we know to preheat our project for 15 seconds at 385 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we will heat it again for 40 seconds with light pressure using a warm peel. Also, it gives us warnings about making sure we use it in a ventilated space, and the supplies that you'll need, preparation, how to apply it, and also some care instructions as well. So this is a great guide for anything that you need to know regarding this. I'm going to show you guys how to do this visually so you can follow along with my instructions, and it gives you the same kind of experience as what they're telling you here. So let's get back to applying it. You can see. So we're going to set it to 385. It's already set there. If you need to change the temperature on this, you just select the little temperature button and then you can go up or down. But we're setting it to 385. You can set the time on the timer to 15 seconds so that you make sure you have it set correctly. and that's how long we're going to preheat for. Before we do anything else, we want to make sure we take our piece of cardstock, make sure it's cut in size to fit within here. This is going to form a protective layer inside of here. You'll want your easy press mat down first. And let's open up the baby bodysuit and insert the cardstock in the center. This prevents any bleed through from using infusible ink because it is a very potent ink transfer. Make sure this is centered on your mat, and we have the temperature set to the correct temperature. So the first step is to preheat this for 15 seconds, and then we will work on the next step. So we're going to take this, center this in here, start preheating it for 15 seconds. We're going to be using light pressure for this, so don't use heavy pressure. It's not more force makes it work better. In this case, it's just the correct amount of heat, the correct amount of pressure, and it'll work great. That's ready to go. Our next step is to take our little decal, and this is the sticky side here. We're going to place it face down so that it reads correctly. Center it in here. You can also use tape if you need. There's infusible ink tape that's specific to this project. You'll use a sheet of butcher paper. So place your butcher paper over the top. Make sure it's large enough to cover the whole section. And we're going to set our timing. So I'm going to set the timer to 40 seconds. And you just press the go button, and then you just watch the countdown. So you don't need to move your iron around. You just hold it in place over the design that you're working on. And we're just going to apply light pressure and watch it count down. The neat thing about this is it becomes part of the fabric with the ink. So it's a really great way to have a lasting, super vibrant result. And this is super pretty. I love how the infusible ink turns out, especially on the baby bodysuits. Remove your sheet immediately. And what we're going to do is let this start cooling down a little bit. It's supposed to be a warm peel, so it's not a hot peel. There are 3 different types of peel. A hot peel, which is when it's still very warm. The next is a warm peel, when it's cooled down a bit, but it's still warm to the touch. And then after that is a cool peel. For infusible ink, it's best on a warm peel for this project. So what we'll do is let this cool down for a little bit so it's not blazing hot like it is right now. And you can always test it after it's cooled down a bit by just checking the corner away from your decal just on the fabric itself, and it feels pretty hot still. So let's let this sit before we do anything else. Okay, so I think this is a warm peel at this point. Let's go ahead. We're going to lift up a corner. We're going to slowly roll this away. Isn't this watercolor effect so pretty? Give you guys a better close-up on it. So pretty. It's just like very slight. You can see the little variations in the color. So let's go ahead and make another one, and we can see what the set looks like using both of the transfers. Now let's see the whole process kind of sped up so you guys can see it start to finish. And we'll make sure our mat is loaded, ink side up. Always make sure that you're mirroring your project when you're working with infusible ink or iron-on, and that just makes sure it turns out correctly. We're gonna watch the Joy cut this out. Isn't this so cute? It does so much work in a tiny little package. I'm really thrilled with how fun the Joy is to work with. So once this is finished, it's going to unload this, and all we have to do is turn our mat over, flip it upside down, and peel the mat away from our project. And then we'll work on removing any of the excess just by cutting it away. And we can work on weeding the vinyl. Weeding the vinyl is just removing the pieces that you don't want from the design. So with infusible ink, a great trick is just to use your tool to go underneath the material, and you can also use your tool to hold down the sections that you want to stay on there. So just go back in, make sure you don't miss any of the little spots in between your project that you're working on. And then once you're done with that, we'll start working on getting everything together. So we're going to put our cardstock inside the baby bodysuit just to protect it. and we'll be using our iron-on mat right below it. This is great because it gives you a nice stable surface to work from. Make sure that you heat up your easypress iron to the instructions from the heat guide. You'll find the heat guide links below. And then what we're going to do is set it for 15 seconds. And for the 15 seconds, it's just to heat up the bodysuit so that it's able to receive that. So once it hits that mark, we remove it and then we add our decal. So you have your heat mat, you have your item that you're going to heat press on, you have your cardstock inside of it, your decal, and then on top of that is the butcher paper. And we're just going to set that for 40 seconds and let that sit and do its job. Making sure to keep it on light pressure, and we'll just wait for the countdown on this one. It doesn't take very long to apply, and you get really nice consistent results because the ink infuses into the fibers. So what we have to do is, because this is a warm peel and not a hot peel, we need to give it time to cool down. And then once it's cooled down, we can remove the decal from it. And it's awesome because it gets you these beautiful kind of vibrant designs. This is a beautiful watercolor one from Natalie Malan. I love it. The links are in the description box below in case you're interested in picking up this one. It just turns out so cute, right? And isn't this such a precious set to give to, some expecting parents? I just think that would be amazing. So if you enjoyed this project, please make sure to like and subscribe. I have so many projects coming up that I want you guys to see and have all the skills for. And I hope you're having an amazing day.